Hello everybody, this is the first lecture of the IELTS, of the IELTS reading test, which talks about matching headings. As we know that the reading test is the most difficult part of the IELTS test. Today we are going to take the matching headings, how to match the headings. We do not have time to understand each single word of the passage, simply because we are under time pressure since we have got to answer 40 questions within 6. What is a heading? A heading is usually, not always, the first or the second sentence of the paragraph. It's also called the topic sentence, and it really outlines the main purpose of the paragraph. So, when it comes to the exam, if you want to try to find the headings fast, it's better to follow a particular search. When searching for the headings, read the first sentence of the paragraph, then read the second sentence of the paragraph, then decide which heading suits. Usually, this technique works 80 to 90%. Let's repeat. When searching for the headings, read the first sentence of the paragraph, then read the second sentence of the paragraph, then decide which heading suits. Usually, this technique works 80 to 90% correctly. As we know that most of the words they come in the synonyms. What I mean precisely, you don't find the precise words. You find 90% of the heading of the topic sentence, as they call it in the States, or the heading in British English, are synonyms. Now, let's test our understanding. Let us read a passage. Robots at work. The newspaper production process has come a long way from the old days when the paper was written, edited, typeset, and ultimately printed in one building with the journalists working on the upper floors and the printing presses going on the ground floor. Let us read it. It says the newspaper production process. It talks about the production of the newspaper and how it has changed over the time. That is the main idea. If we come to the list of headings, number 1, robots working together. It doesn't talk about robots, and I see no robots here. Preparing LGVs for takeover. LGV, what's an LGV? I don't know, and since it's paragraph A and LGV is not mentioned before that means, since it's the first paragraph, so I just leave it. Looking ahead means just to think about or think of the future. It doesn't talk about the future here. Number 4, the LGV's main functions. I see no LGV, also leave it. Number 5, split location for newspaper production. It's a high possibly answer. Why? Because it talks about the production of the newspaper. Number 6, newspaper superseded by technology. It doesn't talk about technology. Number 7, getting the newspaper to the printing center. I see no getting, transferring, transmitting. It doesn't talk about that. Yes, they mentioned the printing center, but it's not talking. It doesn't talk about getting the newspaper to the printing center, since it's not the main idea. Controlling the robots. I see no robots here. Beware of robots. I see no robots here also, and no warning here. So the answer is split location for newspaper production. B, which says once the finished newspaper has been created for the next morning's edition, all the pages are transmitted electronically from the pre-press center to the printing center. Let's go back. Once the finished newspaper has been created for the next morning's edition. We leave this one because it has no sense. All the pages are transmitted. Transmitted, that means it talks about a transmission. We may have some synonyms here, maybe getting, maybe taking, maybe transferring, maybe moving. Well, also it's whether it's a very weak meaning for transmission, but also it could be transmitting. But here, electronically from the prepress center to the printing center. So the main idea here is transmitting the newspapers from the prepress center to the printing center. Let's come here. The first one, robots working together, we don't have it. Number two, preparing LGVs, we don't have any LGV. Looking ahead, it doesn't talk about future. The LGV's main functions, it doesn't talk about LGVs, it doesn't talk about main functions. Number five, we have already chosen it, so we leave it. Number six, newspaper superseded by technology. Yes, it talks about electronical transmission, but it's not technology because it's not the main idea. The main idea is transmitting the newspapers. Okay. Number seven, getting the newspaper to the printing center. As we said, getting is transmitting, so that's the right option. Let's come to C. A procession of automated vehicles is busy at the new printing center where the Sydney Morning Herald is printed each day. Let's reread this first sentence. A procession of automated vehicles is busy at the new printing center where the Sydney Morning Herald is printed each day. If we just try to take any idea of this sentence, it has no idea, it has no main idea, it has no precise meaning. So we just ignore it, we leave it. With lights flashing and morning horns honking, the robots. That's the main idea here. It's a comprehensive one. But let me just finish the reading of this sentence to explain something really important, then I will re-explain this one. Okay. With lights flashing and warning horns honking, the robots, to give them their correct name, the LGVs, or laser guided vehicles, look for all the world-like enthusiastic machines from a science fiction movie as they follow their own random paths around the planet, busily getting on with their own jobs. I want to explain a very important notice here, a very important point here. Please pay attention, pay attention. We have between two brackets here, to give them their correct name, the LGVs, or laser guided vehicles. What we have here is a sub-sentence between two brackets. There's a rule in English which says when you have a sentence between two brackets, that means it's not a main sentence, it's an extra one, explains the noun that precedes. So let me re-explain this. In English, when we have a sentence between two brackets, it's not a main sentence, it's a sub-sentence which explains the meaning of a word that precedes. So as we notice here, to give them their correct name, the LGVs, or laser guided vehicles, explains robots. What they did here is that they tried to trick you by putting this sentence in order to choose number 2 or number 4. Do not do that. Since it's between two brackets or between two commas, it's not the main sentence. And the proof of that, if we just delete this one, the sentence will be, with lights flashing and warning horns honking, the robots look for all the world like blah 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 blah. So it gives a full meaningful sentence. That's the proof. So ignore this sentence and do not choose the LGVs. Okay, now let me explain. With lights flashing and warning horns honking. With lights flashing, beep, Beep, beep. That means that there is an alarm. And warning horns. Warning is the key word here, which means it's the main sentence which illustrates the entire paragraph, which explains the entire paragraph. That means there is a danger, a warning, watch out, be careful, beware also, but beware of what? Comma, and instead of writing of, they said the robots, which means with lights flashing and warning horns honking of the robots, which means we have an alarm of the robots. Okay, let's come here. Robots working together. It doesn't talk about robots working together, it talks about robots working among themselves. Preparing LGVs, it doesn't talk about LGVs for takeover. Looking ahead, it doesn't talk about the future. The LGV's main functions, it doesn't talk about their functions, it talks about each one's function, each one's thinking. Okay. Split location, you have already chosen it. Newspapers superseded by technologies. It doesn't talk about the newspapers for technology for newspapers. Number 7, we have already chosen it. Number 8, controlling the robots. And number 9, beware of robots. So we have number 1, number 8, and number 9 talk about robots. Now let us choose one of them with the explanation. Robots working together, we said no. Controlling the robots, it doesn't talk about any control of the robots if we read it, but it talks about the danger or the warning of the robots, which means beware, which means be careful. So number 9, the last one, IX, is the right answer. Exercise D says, the question newspaper workers must now ask, however, is, how long will it be before the robots are writing the newspapers as well as running the printing center, churning out the latest edition every morning? Before explaining it, what's the meaning of churn out? It's not an important thing. They put these words in order to trick you, to make you think of the word to lose the time. You don't need it, and you don't have to know its meaning at all. Indeed, I know its meaning, but I will not say it because you don't need it. You don't have to think about this one. Okay, let's go back. How long will it be? How long will it be? You are wondering about the future. So it talks about the future. In this case, without thinking, it will be looking ahead. Okay, now that's the end of the first. Now let's come to another one which explains our theory. Now, wild consumers. The internet has empowered shoppers both online and offline. Exercise A. Before we answer or before we read exercise A, what we need to do is to read the list of the headings, to have a look on, then we come and try to match. Number 1, increasing customer confidence. Number 2, a benefit to retailers. A retailer. What's a retailer? A retailer is a merchant of single pieces. It's not a wholesaler. No, a retailer. Just like somebody who has a small shop to sell single pieces. 3, the bigger picture of how internet use changes consumer behavior. 4, introducing a novel approach to purchasing. It talks about purchasing. Purchasing, we will explain this word later. 5, the dangers for retailers. 6, retraining staff. 7, changing the face of the shop and the internet site. 8, a look at the sales figures. And 9, encouraging online feedback from consumers. Let's come to the first one. The amount of time people spend researching, checking the prices, visiting stores, and seeking advice from friends. tends to rise in proportion to the value of the product that are thinking of buying. We have read that spend researching, checking the prices, visiting the stores, and seeking advice. Those four expressions or phrases give the meaning of the word purchasing. This is the meaning of purchasing. So we come to number 4, without thinking, introducing a novel approach to purchasing. Okay, this B, paragraph B says, more people are buying products online, especially at peak buying periods. The total value of e-commerce transactions in the United States in the fourth quarter of 2004 reached $18 billion, a 22% increase over the same period in 2003, according to the Department of Commerce in Washington, D.C. But that just represents 2% of America's blah blah blah. Since we have percentages, and those percentages talk about sales, more people are buying products online, especially at peak buying periods. The total value of e-commerce transactions in the United States in the fourth quarter of 2004 reached blah blah blah. Okay, how do we know that they are about sales? Because we have buying, people are buying, that means we have sales, which means 20% of 22% and 2%. So since we have percentages, that means it's a figure. A figure means a drawing, a mathematical drawing. This is what we call figure, and that means it's the percentage. So without thinking, it's number 8, a look of the sales figures. This is the only one that matches here. C. If you consider the internet's wider influence over what people spend their money on, then the figures escalate out of sight. We have the word influence. Influence, effect, influential, effects, effective, they all mean there is a change. A change. But a change of what? If we come to the selections, to the choices here, we have 2 headings have change. Number 3 says the bigger picture of our internet use changes consumer behavior, and number 7, changing the face of the shop on the internet site. Let's check number 3 or number 7. It says influence, that means a change over what people spend their money on. People who spend their money, we call them customers or consumers. That means it's number 3, the bigger picture of how internet use changes consumer behavior. D. The internet is moving the world closer to perfect product and price information. Let's reread it. The internet is moving the world closer to perfect product and price information. This one has no main idea, so we read sentence number 2. The additional knowledge it can provide makes consumers more self-assured. Consumer, which means customer, or the buyer, the people who buy. More self-assured means confidence, and it says it makes them more self-assured. That means number 1, increasing customer confidence. Let's come to paragraph E. Far from losing trade to online merchants. This is a benefit. A merchant, we said, a retailer. Far from losing trade to online merchant. When you are, let's suppose that you have a shop. Let's say that nobody is buying from you. Then suddenly you just advertise your goods on the internet and people start to buy. It's a benefit from losing to getting the advantage, to utilizing. So the answer will be here uh, to a benefit to retailers, to the merchants. Okay, let's come to F. Merchants, that means retailers, or businessmen also, who charge too much and offer poor service, however, should beware. That means should be careful. It's a warning for them. Should watch out also, and also it's an alert for them, and it's a danger for them, danger for the merchants. So in this case, it will be number 5, the dangers for retailers. Here, which means the warning for the merchants, for the businessmen. Now, G, the last paragraph. Some companies are already adjusting. Adjusting also means changing, because adjusting means to go with the wave, to do what others do. Here, some companies are already adjusting their business models. Some companies sometimes, instead of saying companies, we might say factories, that depends. We might say shops, supermarkets, hypermarkets, mini markets. It depends on what we mean, but all of them mean something related to business, are changing their business models. That means are changing a model, which means what you show the people. Just like when you go to the front window of any shop, you find a model. So that to take account of these trends. Okay, so in this case, we just look for the word change. We have already chosen one, and now we have changing number 7, changing the face of the shop, the model of the shop, of the company, of the supermarket, whatever, and the internet site. I wish that you got the benefit here from my first lecture of the IELTS, and in 3 or 4 days I will just upload another lecture which is related to the IELTS headings choosing. Thank you very much. If you think that this lecture is excellent, good, very good, perfect, please make a subscribe to this channel, and you may contact the information below under the video, and please write your comments if you have any questions, or if you think that there is something missing in the lecture. This was Haidar ALcasseer talking to you. Thank you very much.